Good morning. What's up? It's Friday. How about that? And welcome to November as well. 7:50 in the morning here in Western Iowa. Temperature 28 degrees, nice and brisk. And it should be about 28 degrees this time of year. So here we are. Well, let's jump in. We have your forecast not through just this weekend, but through next weekend. And so we'll take a look at our pattern too, because it's changing and it's dramatic and it's on your screen right now. Dun, dun, dun. This is the upper air picture for Sunday. And so you can see the blue and even the purple are upper air anomalies. And so this depicts low pressure diving south into Arizona, basically the Four Corners. And correspondingly, on the East Coast, it's high pressure over eastern Canada, the Great Lakes, and the East Coast. And so that's going to reflect in our temperatures too. It's going to be colder west, warmer east. And in the middle, in the plains, we're going to see systems ejecting into the plains for a few rounds of showers and storms. So it's looking pretty active depending on where you are. And here's where things are looking active today. These are your watches and warnings across the country. And so for the West Coast, it's snow. For the Oregon and Washington Cascades, we're looking at winter storm warnings here in the red or the purple, and the blue or the other purple is winter weather advisories. Winter weather advisories, Sierra Nevada, California. A little bit of wind issue, Northern California coast. Also down into Southern California, and see a little bit of freeze warnings down there for parts of California, also Utah into Colorado. Looks like some rain setting up for eastern New Mexico into Texas the next several days, with a flood watch for southeastern New Mexico into in parts of West Texas. Now, included in this is Roswell, New Mexico, which was just devastated by probably record flooding a few weeks ago. And so we don't want to see a repeat of that. We shouldn't see a repeat of that, but we don't want any flooding. It was pretty rough. All right, up there in the Northeast, we're looking at red flag warnings. We'll go with that because there's really no winter storms for the Northeast, but there will be some wind, it looks like. And then, further up into northern New York, it's a wind advisory. So be advised there's going to be some wind. All right, let's get into the forecast for today. Here's how your surface looks. And it's a little patch of rain mixed with snow up there in the northern plains, upper Midwest. New Mexico, heavy rain possible, flooding. That's right around Roswell there where that red is painted. Otherwise, it's scattered showers and storms all the way from Central Plains through Texas, up through the southeast and mid-Atlantic. Florida, you're included, and then that turns to your regular rain, with the cold front moving into the northeast, and some of that will be a little bit of snow, maybe rain mix of snow in New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. And Pacific Northwest, that's our storm that's going to dive into the Four Corners and bring in heavy snow for the Cascades of Oregon and Washington, and into the mountains of eastern Oregon into Idaho. And a severe threat today, there is one. It's marginal, so we're not expecting a widespread severe weather outbreak here, but could be Amarillo to Lubbock, back into southeastern New Mexico, Roswell, Carlsbad, and all the way back into El Paso. A marginal risk of severe storms. Otherwise, the light green is your general storms, and temperatures across the country are pretty evened out. Fairly close to average. Now, about 10 degrees below average for parts of Wyoming, and about 10 to 15 degrees above average for the East Coast. But otherwise, single digits above or below average. And those highs translate to this. So we do see some 30s and 40s in Wyoming, kind of chilly there. 40s up in the upper Midwest and northern plains, but here in Iowa, yesterday we barely got out of 40. The 40s will be in the mid 50s today for much of us. Down into the, say, Oklahoma, Texas 70s, even 80s along the Gulf Coast, and up to the mid-Atlantic. Cool in the Northwest, mid 50s, Willamette Valley, inland 40s and 50s. And even desert Southwest, not too bad. 81 for Phoenix. Low temperatures tomorrow morning, lots of 20s, northern plains through the Rockies into the Great Lakes 20s and 30s, and 20s and 30s up there in the Northeast as well. Warmer to the south as you might expect. And if you're like me, you went to right where you live to see what's going on. I'm going to be in the 30s, it looks like. All right, surface for tomorrow. Things are getting more active as that storm system in the west dives into the Four Corners. And so most of the west, rain and snow depending on elevation and location. Then you get into Texas, New Mexico, Texas. This is our severe weather possible. This is our heavy rain possible. That also goes into Oklahoma, Kansas, parts of Missouri. Scattered storms for the entire plains into the Great Lakes and Midwest. And a little bit of rain there for the southeast into the mid-Atlantic. Severe weather tomorrow looks like this, and it's centered just south of Lubbock, so Midland, Odessa, you're in this. A little bit of eastern New Mexico, southern Lee County, so maybe Jowl in that slight risk, all the way down to Midland, Odessa. I probably already mention that? The darker green is the marginal, so that'll take you up to Oklahoma City and almost Amarillo. Lubbock's included in that. Abilene, U2. And then the light green is just general storms. And there is a risk for tornadoes. So zooming into Texas, and the brown is the 5%. So Midland, Odessa, basically, 5% chance of tornadoes here. And again, this is Saturday. And then your 2% goes up to Oklahoma City and back into far west Texas. Your anomaly temperatures for tomorrow. So getting more below average for the west coast, everyone else above average, southeast a little bit more above average, although the northeast slightly below average. And those highs in the southeast are 40s mostly, maybe even getting into the 30s in some places and touching, the 50s too, as you head a little further south in New England. Great Lakes 50s and 40s, same with the upper Midwest, a lot more 50s. North Dakota, Montana, into South Dakota and Iowa and Nebraska, and started getting into the 60s further south in the plains. And the west is the coolest. But, Phoenix in the 70s, it looks like there. All right, how about precipitation for the next 2 days? This is ending Sunday morning. And you can see a whole lot of rain from southeastern New Mexico through West Texas and the Panhandle, and especially as you get into Oklahoma and Kansas. So in Oklahoma and back towards Wichita Falls, Texas, you see a swath 4 inches plus, perhaps. So this will be our heaviest rainfall. Looking pretty good for Iowa, though, getting up to close to an inch for some. Same for Missouri and parts of Nebraska. Up in the Pacific Northwest, along the coast, 2 inches of rain. They have rainforests there. In fact, have you seen banana slugs like a foot long? I'm not kidding. Along the Oregon coast, Washington coast too. Anyway, in the mountains there, it's going to be snow. It looks like this for the next 2 days, 48 hours of snow, mainly confined up there into the northwestern part of the United States, and quite a bit. Cascades of Washington, a couple feet. Cascades of Oregon, especially central and southern Cascades, a couple feet. Into eastern Oregon, some of the mountains of Idaho, a couple feet, down in parts of Montana, a couple feet, otherwise widespread 6 inches or a little bit more. Again, mainly higher elevations here, but that's where the snow is going to be flying. And you can see a little bit of dusting, North Dakota, South Dakota, a little bit in Minnesota, a little bit into Colorado. All right, for Sunday, rounding out the weekend, remember this is what we showed you to begin, which was our anomalous heights, and just means it's going to be lower than normal heights for the Four Corners and higher than normal heights as you head east. And what heights are is when you have low pressure. If you're looking at the cross section of the atmosphere, low pressure has lower heights and with rising air. High pressure has higher heights with sinking air. So anyway. Where were we? Surface for Sunday. We have our system moving into the Four Corners and much of the west with rain and snow and thunderstorms for southern Arizona into New Mexico, southern New Mexico. and out into the plains. Severe weather possible moving a little further to the east, still parts of West Texas, into Oklahoma and Kansas, and then the heavy rainfall flooding possible moves into parts of Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, and southeastern Iowa, with scattered storms otherwise through the plains, moving into the Mississippi Valley, the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes, and a little bit of snow up there in upstate New York. Now, severe on Sunday, yes. A big area of a slight chance of severe weather through much of Kansas into southern Nebraska, through Oklahoma, including Oklahoma City, down to just to the west of Big D, maybe Fort Worth getting in this a little bit. Certainly Abilene's in there. Then you go to the darker green, the marginal around that, so that expands that area into Dallas, into Tulsa, into Lawrence, Kansas, Topeka, and into almost, well, certainly Lincoln, Nebraska, almost Omaha. You get the idea. All right, temperatures on Sunday, cool west. Again, those heights are low in the four corners, so that means cooler temperatures. The heights are high further to the east, and that sinking air means warmer temperatures. And so that's what we see in the southeast and into, say, Kentucky, into the Ohio Valley, teens above average, even into the plains. But then you go back into the west coast and you got teens below average for Arizona. And those highs look like this in Arizona. A lot of 30s and 40s in Arizona with, depending on elevation. Then further south into the lower elevation and into the deserts, we see some 70s here. 60s in Central California, 50s along the Oregon and Washington coast, 40s and 30s inland. And then up in the Northeast, where it's going to be a little bit, pretty close to average, maybe a little above New York State, 40s and 50s, cooler than that north. All right, let's take a look at the GFS. And we're starting out with this morning, and we see our system moving into the Pacific Northwest. Heavy rain, heavy snow, and cold temperatures. And again, this is going to be diving into the four corners and then ejecting into the plains. And we're not going to have just one of these. We're going to have probably three at least. Meanwhile, our cold front that went through the plains and through Texas yesterday is further to the east, and you can see that pretty nicely. A line of storms, showers and storms along that front as it continues to move east today. And we'll see as we get, this gets us to around noontime. We're starting to see, watch these showers moving to the west. And then this system, of course, moving east and then, east and then southeast. And so we see those showers spreading and the moisture increasing from east to west in Texas into southeastern New Mexico. This gets us to tonight. And then we see the cold rain and this snow with elevation in the Pacific Northwest. And so as we get into Saturday, this is early Saturday, lots of rain. Eastern New Mexico, West Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and our snow flying in Nevada, Idaho as well. And then we see thunderstorms busting out as we get into the afternoon Saturday. And this shows some very heavy rainfall for Oklahoma. And then that system moving into parts of northwestern Arkansas, into Missouri, and then more storms busting out into West Texas and the Panhandle. And again, we could see some severe weather. This will be Saturday afternoon, evening. This is more evening here. And then as we get further into the night, Saturday night, into Sunday, this is midnight, almost Sunday, heavy rainfall moving out of West Texas into Oklahoma and Kansas, Missouri, and parts of Illinois, and some rain's coming down, Nebraska into Iowa and Minnesota. We see our storm system in the Pacific Northwest spreading snow further to the east and starting to dive southward as we get into Sunday. And, some heavy rainfall now around Chicago, moving through Illinois, Missouri. And we see more snow now moving into the Four Corners. And we see another system busting out with some rain around Dallas, west of Dallas, and Wichita Falls, I would say, and then moving into Oklahoma. This gets us into Sunday evening. Snow flying in Colorado, parts of Utah, even into northern Arizona and New Mexico. As we get into Sunday night, heavy rain in Missouri, rain moving into Iowa, rain in South Dakota, snow moving into Wyoming and Colorado, and even northern New Mexico and parts of Arizona, and light snow back into Idaho and Utah. And that heavy rain moving from Missouri into Illinois back towards Chicago again. It's rain in my neck of the woods here in western Iowa, rain for the Great Lakes, places like Wisconsin. And then as we get into the day, Monday, again, heavy rainfall from Oklahoma into Missouri and Kansas, moving into Iowa, up into the Great Lakes, snow now coming into the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas. So it could happen. Dalhart, Texas. Watch out for a little bit of snow maybe as we get into Monday. Pacific Northwest, another storm. And then as this low ejects into the plains, rain for Iowa. This is Tuesday morning, this is, well, actually Monday night, late Monday night. And then a line of storms here as a cold front is forming, moving through Arkansas and Missouri and eastern Iowa into Illinois. Chicago getting heavy rain again. That's like the third round. Heavy snow moving into parts of Idaho and Montana, and of course Washington State. As we get into election day now, see storms lining up, a little bit of unsettled weather, rain and snow in the Pacific Northwest. Rain moving into Wisconsin and the Great Lakes as we get later into the day on Tuesday. We've got swing states here, so Wisconsin, Michigan, very important for both parties to win, right? The swing states. And then cold front moving through bright red Indiana, through parts of Kentucky into western Tennessee near Memphis, and through Mississippi and Louisiana, all red states. And then we see the snow coming down in the Northwest. Politics is my other job, so my other hobby. I told myself I wasn't going to hit this accidentally, but I have. So let's just zoom ahead. So here's election day. You see that front racing. Then we get into the 6th, and another system moving into the Rockies, ejecting into the plains, rain and snow. This one has snow further to the east. So we haven't seen a plains snowstorm yet. Will we see one Friday on the 8th with snow into eastern Nebraska and parts of South Dakota, almost getting to the Missouri River where I live? So will that be a snowstorm for parts of the Midwest? And it's looking like it on this run. So maybe some snow for eastern Nebraska around the 8th. Another system for the Pacific Northwest diving into the Central Rockies, moving into the plains as we go to the 15th and the 16th. So that's the pattern as we're now into November, and it's going to continue. All right, let's zoom through next week. So I have these anomalous temperatures loaded up. This is Monday, so cool. Four Corners in west, warm. Ohio Valley, Great Lakes, down into the southeast. Then Tuesday, then Wednesday, then Thursday. And you see that cold air dropping into the Four Corners, into West Texas, and into the plains. Here's Friday, starting to moderate a little bit, but cooler in the plains, warmer for the southeast. Saturday, so this would be a week from this weekend. And then Sunday, things moderate and kind of average out most of the country. 6 to 10 day temps real quick. Look cool for the southwest. Otherwise, good chances of above average most of the rest of the country. Precipitation wise, we'll go best chance New Mexico, West Texas. But still a chance even Arizona into most of the rest of Texas, into the Central Plains. Also above average chances for Florida, into the southeast and the mid-Atlantic. Everyone else dry. So comprehensive look once again. Hope it made sense. And sorry about my hair being a distraction. I don't know what to do about that. It won't stay down. Okay, so that's your forecast through next weekend. Have a good Friday. I know it's going to happen. And we'll see you tomorrow right here on the Weather Mic. See you later.